Okay, recently we put out a video taking a look at data in UFC from 2001 through 2010. What we mainly looked at is how many fights ended in TKO and how many fights ended via submission. The numbers we came to was around 37% of the fights ending via TKO and 25% via submission. Um, this video I happened to run by a person named Stephen Quatros. For people who don't know Stephen Quatros, they call him the Fight Professor. I can probably make like a 20-minute YouTube on this guy's history, and that's just from what I know. Um, Incredible wealth of knowledge in MMA. He was a judge in UFC 8. He did color commentary for Showtime. He was a commentator next to Bas Rutten Pride. He coined terms like lay and pray. Editor-in-chief for countless magazines, and a cool guy. I mean, he was a drummer for a band called Snow that used to open for Quiet Riot. I mean, how cool is that? And he was a host of a radio show for Sure Dog. And one thing I'll say real quick that's probably the coolest thing about him is that I just had like a basic jiu-jitsu shirt on, and I had met him at an event, and he's like, "Come on over, sit down." We had talked, and I learned so much about MMA in that short discussion. And he didn't even know I was a co-host on a Sure Dog radio show myself. He's just a cool guy, invited me over. So I digress. Steven took a look at the video, and he kind of indirectly asked, I wonder how many fights that were championship fights ended in what percentage. And I decided that's definitely a question worth looking at. So I sat down, I compiled the data again from 2010 back through 2001, and only took into account championship fights. The numbers went kind of like this. TKO wise, we went from 37% up to 55%. Pretty good difference. Submission wise, we dropped from 25% to 21%. Now, before, the argument really that I was making is that the cages are very different in most MMA events versus the proprietary octagon in the UFC. We don't really have that argument in this case. There's two things I want to talk about. One is that when you're in the UFC and you're not in the undercard, which is already so incredibly hard to do, and you have the pressure of a championship fight on you, you are going to probably be A, already a top-notch fighter, and B, pretty well-rounded. People's jiu-jitsu defense is at a black belt level. They might not be great at jiu-jitsu, but they sure know how to defend arm bars and triangles and most attacks very, very well. Secondly is their heart is big. I mean, to make it to a championship fight, you usually have to have a lot of heart, a lot of willpower. And the reason they don't get submitted on the ground, I feel a lot of times, is that they just have no quit in them. They'll fight for their lives, and it usually ends up by TKO when it's on the ground. Through ground and pound, they're either unconscious, or the ref has to step in because they can no longer intelligently defend themselves, or their corner just has to throw in the towel. So I didn't think there's many things you could even ask me that you wouldn't know already in MMA, Stephen, but a statistic, I guess, that I hope is something that I'm able to provide to you. As far as everyone else, from the first video, the feedback has been so awesome, and let's keep the debate going because it's really fruitful, and I'm learning a lot, and I think other people are too. As usual, if you're in the Chicagoland area, we're about 20 minutes north, Gracie Baja, Deerfield, and North Shore, and Chicago Martial Arts. Come on up. You mentioned Submissions 101. You get a free t-shirt, a week's free training. You know, they have qualified instructors, Gracie Baja black belts, TKD masters, strikers of various arts that have been doing it for years and years. So keep the questions coming. It's tomgavrilos@gmail.com. I'll try to answer you via email and hopefully via video format like this. Fight Professor, thanks for the question, and everybody, thank you so much.